Hello, everyone. And this is the Inflamed Sisters Thriving Podcast. The Inflamed Sisters Thriving Podcast is a safe space created to guide women living with chronic illness to uncover their purpose by doing what they were meant to do, move in power by advocating for themselves, and accelerate their growth in health, career, and business. You will learn how to stop hiding and start thriving. We will inspire, educate, and motivate you as we show you inflamed sisters thrive together always. Well, my name is Katina Morrison, and I am your host. I'm a registered nurse and a chronic illness warrior myself, living more than 30 years with chronic illnesses like rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. I created this platform just for you to let you know you are not alone. But what I love to do is bring on amazing guests as well who can share their journeys and inspire and educate you to continue to grow and thrive. And today, our amazing guest is the wonderful Robin Allen. Welcome,
Hey,
Robin.
hey there. How are you? Thanks for having me.
It's so wonderful to have you. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I will. My name is Robin Allen, certified nutrition specialist and the creator of Necessary Nutrition Vitamin D. So I am a nutritionist and I'm an entrepreneur as well. I've owned a company for the past 14 years. And I love to help people or inspire people to use food and nutrition to, as I say, live their best life, heal their body, get more energy, just really live your best life. And we need food and nutrition to do that. So thank you.
Exactly. There's so much that we can do through naturally and holistically with nutrition. And that's what
Yeah.
I love about what your mission is and what your product does. Can you tell us about what led you to create your product?
Well, let me do. So we started out actually many, many years ago with a plant-based protein powder, and we then added to our line. And right now we focus on vitamin D because vitamin D is an easy deficiency to have, but also an easy deficiency not to have. And we're very mission driven or our mission is to help people to understand what the power of vitamin D is is and what it can do for the body. So we created the product, and it was really during this past pandemic where we realized, wow, this lack of information or the lack of vitamin D is not serving folk as much as we want them to do. So we created the product long ago, but it's only recently where we've just been really, really focused on educating on what vitamin D can do for the body.
So 2020 actually brought about an awakening
It
about
did.
how people are really impacted by the vitamin D deficiency. In fact, it worsened, I'm sure, because of what occurred in 2020. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that? Like, what is the impact of
Well,
the? Mhm.
so it worsened, right? Because people weren't outside as much. And then there's some studies, and I always want people to be in the know. So look it up for yourself. But the correlation between how people handled the virus, especially people of color, when their vitamin D was lower, and what relationship the vitamin D had to recovery, to resistance of that virus. So
Mhm.
when 2020, again, we always had our vitamin D and we always had our customers, but more people started to get it and understand it, and more information was available with regards to it. But really, vitamin D is critical to human health. So it touches all of our systems. And what the problem that I see is a lot of people don't understand it. They don't know that. And the doctors, it's almost like a stepchild. When you go and get your physical or your blood work, they may leave that out. And if it's critical to human health, why would we leave that out? And again, during that 2020 space, that's when vitamin D became more known or more out in the forefront and more talked about. And so, fortunately, we already had the product and we just had the opportunity to make it known. So, with cell growth, it supports cell growth, it supports bone health, it supports our mood, it supports inflammation, helping us with insulin resistance, so many things. I think I said this before, it's an easy deficiency to have, but also an easy deficiency not to have. An example, I had a friend, actually, not just a customer, but a friend who had some mood challenges and her vitamin D levels were at 19. And all we did was get her levels up and she felt better. The doctors wanted to put her on all kinds of medication, and we avoided that by getting her vitamin D levels to go up. It's easy, it's cost effective. And I always say to people, what if you got your levels up to par and you could see the shifts? I say start there. In addition to what you're eating and how you're treating your body, but make sure that your levels of vitamin D are adequate. And we can talk, Katina, about what adequate is and all of that. I mean, there's a lot to be said about it.
Yeah, I love the phrase that vitamin D deficiency is an easy deficiency to have and an easy one not to
Yeah.
have. Like you should actually coin that if you have not. It's a that right there needs to be trademarked
Yeah.
because it really explains so much. I know for me, I've been a person who has worked from home for the past 12 years. And
Mm.
when I started working from home, my vitamin D deficiency got worse because
Oh.
I became
Mm-hmm.
I'm to a degree a homebody. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a person that really has to go out much, maybe
Mm-hmm.
on the weekends. So it would be easy for me to just be in the home all
Mm-hmm.
week long,
Yeah.
but not taking advantage of even I live in sunny Florida. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know that getting 10 to 15 minutes or 30 minutes of sun for me was not enough.
Aha.
I needed more.
You said something. Well, one of the couple of things are happening in our society, and then I want to speak to people of color. But
Mhm.
in our society, back in the day, we weren't always at the computer, but now we have the ability to work at home. So many of our careers and our jobs have us inside, and
Mhm.
because of that, we're not outside, and that's where vitamin D comes from. It comes naturally from the sun. It hits our skin, and then our skin from the rays of the sun then is able to help us produce it. Well, us with darker skin, so when we have melanated skin, it doesn't do it as efficiently. So the fact that as if you're melanated, you already have that buffer, that challenge, and then
Mhm.
if you're inside, then you're not even getting any of it. So then where does that leave us as women of color? Even more deficient inside, and then our skin being that barrier to us producing it naturally. And then think about all the challenges that we have, be it autoimmunes, diabetes, mood challenges, all of those things that we go to our doctors and then they may give us a medication, which is medication has its place. It does. But what if we didn't have to get there? What if we were empowered enough to say, okay, wait, let me person figure out where my vitamin D levels are, make sure that they're up to par between 60 and 80, and we'll talk about that because there's confusion in that range.
Mhm.
You person be empowered yourself to do that before you allow any other things to go on with medication. Just say, let me see where my vitamin D levels, give me 4 months to raise them, and let's see what changes. And I say to everybody, do that for yourself. Do that for yourself. It's very simple, it's very easy, it's very cost effective, and then move forward from there. Make sure your levels are up to par, and then see what else needs to happen. You may be surprised that some of the things that you're dealing with go away, even related to pain and inflammation, because it helps with that. It's
Of
not the
course.
all in all, because there's other things. It's not the all in all. It's one of many steps, but very powerful. Yeah.
I
So,
agree because I'm a testament to that. My
mm,
symptoms of my rheumatoid arthritis and
mm,
fibromyalgia, even my endometriosis prior to my
mm.
hysterectomy, were worse when my vitamin D levels were at their lowest.
Oh, you knew that,
Yes, because there
but
was a
did anybody tell you, or you discovered it yourself? How
I
did you?
discovered it actually myself because I started doing the research. At one time, my
Mm,
vitamin D level was as low as 8.
Yeah.
It was basically non-existent at
Correct.
one point.
Mhm.
So I started doing the research, and actually, my doctor, I take that back.
Mhm.
Once we saw that some of the things that I was doing naturally, holistically, and combined with medicine wasn't really working,
Mhm.
we started analyzing my labs more closely, and my vitamin D
Mhm.
hadn't been checked in a few years. Um, and then when by the time we checked it, it was at about an 8. And then she mentioned to me, these are some of the symptoms it can be. And I told her too, I'm thinking that because I'm not getting a lot of sun on top of it, maybe I'm not getting enough vitamin D. I did research and I found this, and together we developed a plan. Now I wanted, and once I got those levels up,
Mhm.
then it improved. Now, initially, she just said, just get 10 minutes in the sun, or 15 minutes. And I'm like, that's not enough for a person of color, for a Black woman, especially with my complexion of skin. That
Mhm.
vitamin D is not getting through. So,
Look, look how you've just empowered so many people, Katina, just by you sharing that story.
mhm,
And it took you a while to you and your doctor to get to the bottom of that. Now that people are listening, they then can say, wait a minute, let me do this. Let me
mhm,
make sure that I'm adequate. And then you noticed, and it's like I said, it's so simple. It's such a simple fix. And you notice some improvement. And that is it's interesting to me that is not one of the first things that are checked on. It's like, and I said to myself, why? Is it why? Like when I go get my physical, I have to say to them, please check my vitamin D. Like
mhm,
it's not even always on the list of things to check. And I thought, why? Like, why wouldn't you check it if it's so important? And I don't want to get into like a conspiracy, why don't they want to check it? But it's so key. And so those that are listening, I encourage you to do a couple of things. One of them is to start taking your vitamin D, period, and
mhm,
then get it checked. It takes about it can take about 4 months for you to increase it, but also if it's low, low, low in the eights and the 19s, then you're going to want a mega dose. One thing about that I want to bring to your attention is that if you are low and your doctor catches it, and then they will say to you, yes, your vitamin D is low. I want you to mega dose, which means taking a whole lot of vitamin D at once, and it
mhm,
stores, and they're going to write you a prescription for two, vitamin D2 versus vitamin D3. And I want to give you some information because I want y'all to be empowered. I think when we're listening to people, you're always going to hear a lot of information. And I always say, do your own research, your own due diligence, because you don't know me and I could be telling you whatever, right? I mean, who knows? So I always just say fact check and have a knowing for yourself. But D2 versus D3, there's a difference. D3 is more effective, it lasts longer, it absorbs better, so, and you can get it over the counter, right? So with D2, it's in a prescription form. It doesn't have to be, but it's a pharmaceutical grade, and you don't need a pharmaceutical grade, but that's what a doctor or healthcare provider is able to provide is the D2, but I recommend D3. So if you do your research and you look, you'll find that D3 is overall better. And with the D3, bluebird came on my ear. With the D3, you can still mega dose with it as well. So it's just better for you when you do the D3 versus the D2.
And I appreciate you going into the details of that, because there's a difference between regular vitamin D, vitamin
Yeah.
D2, vitamin 3, D3 that
Yeah.
people don't recognize. I've always taken or been encouraged to take the vitamin D3.
Yeah.
I've noticed over time, for me personally, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a person who also lives with high functioning depression. So
Mm-hmm.
if when my vitamin D levels are at its lowest, it
Yeah.
does, I had the hardest time coping with those symptoms, but
Yeah.
not knowing that, wait, my mood is so impacted. My fatigue is not necessarily my rheumatoid arthritis or my anemia. it's likely my vitamin
Yeah.
D levels being out of whack. So
Yeah.
when we're noticing all of these symptoms, when we're noticing
Yeah.
these changes in our body, it's not just, not having enough vitamin D impacts almost every
Everything.
factor of your body.
It makes me emotional when I hear it. So yeah, so vitamin D is important for mental health and mood and
Hmm.
anxiety. And it makes me emotional because as Black women, I mean, we have a lot of stuff we're dealing with, and sometimes we may feel like not just Black women, but women in general, maybe we're not heard
Hmm.
when we go to the doctor. Maybe we don't have enough information to be empowered. And I was just think, what could we have suffered less? Could we have healed easier, faster, or some of the symptoms have gone away if we had this information sooner? So I'm grateful again for you bringing this subject up because there are people that are listening that don't even associate that with that, right? You don't think, oh, my mood or I have this, my vitamin D is low. Like no one, I mean, who brings that into the core? It doesn't come up as a correlation.
Exactly.
People think of vitamin D in their bones, right? They're like,
I
oh,
know.
vitamin D in my bones, because that's for whatever reason. That's just I don't know. It's just people think they're bones. They don't think about chronic illness. They don't think about the autoimmunes. They don't think about the gut health, and everything is working together. And I go back to it being such a mission for mine because it's it's like it's just easy. It's nothing that is like so complicated to embrace or do. And also, so we provide supplementation, which is important because we don't get enough from the sun. But I want y'all to understand the importance of going outside
Hmm.
because there is power and energy in the sun, like legitimately what the sun is there to do. It does change our moods when we're out in nature. It does have its place, right? So I never want anybody to think that I'm like, oh, don't ever go in the sun, just take these supplements. Yes, take your supplements if applicable, but please do still go out and enjoy nature and the sun because it's just it fills us with joy and energy. So
Yes,
yeah.
and I second that because, like I mentioned, I was a person who basically became a homebody to a certain extent. But what I was doing was only making my symptoms worse, my vitamin D levels. And like you
Yeah.
said, I used to have severe issues with IBS and IBD. But until it was amazing how my life transformed when I had the right amount of vitamin D, but also the
Oh,
right amount of iron in my body as
yeah.
well. It
Yeah.
transformed my health, and then
Yeah.
that's why natural holistic things could actually work better for me.
Yeah. And you are thriving. You asked the question, and you asked the question, you said, why did we decide to why do we produce vitamin D or why do we focus on it? And that's why, right? Because it works, it's easy, and it's not one of those things where there's a lot of supplements and people are saying take this, take that, and you're confused like multivitamin. Do I take this? Do I take that? It's a supplement. It's not, you can take it, you can run your blood work, and you know that it works. There's no confusion about did it do its job. And so I like that. I like things that are proven, not are just in theory or arbitrary. I like to say, if you take necessary nutrition, vitamin D, this is what is going to happen. And I love the results. I also want to speak and educate on, there's two things I want folks to hear and understand because you'll see vitamin D3 and K2. So I want to educate you
Hmm.
all on what K2 is about, but then also on quality. So the supplement industry isn't regulated, and I'm very intimate with it because we produce it. So people can produce whatever and sell it to you, and you don't really know what you're getting. And I like to say this because I just want people to understand it. So with the vitamin D, the D3, and we're not talking about D3K2, but we're talking about D3. We're talking about the caps, the gel capsule. So gelatin is made from uh, either bovine or pork.
Mm-hmm.
And some, if you don't do pork, right, or if you're vegan or all of that, then you want to pay attention to that, because you don't know if it could, the gel cap itself can go against what you want to do. So with the necessary nutrition vitamin D3, ours is not made of any pork products. The gelatin is a bovine. That capsule is not vegan or vegetarian, but our KD3K2, and I'll explain what that's for, is a vegetarian capsule. Some people don't care about that, but I always want people to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, when the products are made, they can, like ours is made in an organic facility, right? Where it's clean and it's certified. You don't know what, I mean, honestly, you could be it could be made in a facility where rats are running through. You just don't know. So there's certain certifications that, if you care, you might not, in terms of cleanliness and quality, that you can vet of a product. And we make sure that we have all these certifications, especially, I think, as a woman, as a Black woman, I feel like I have to do over and beyond, right? Making sure our stuff is legit, legit, legit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we have these certifications. So we wanted to say that, because sometimes people look at price alone. They're like, oh, I'll just get it because it's cheaper, right? But they don't understand that like I used to drive a expensive car, and now I drive not an expensive car. I used to have a BMW, and I used to have a now I have a Prius. And so the BMW truly does do some different things than the Prius. So sometimes you get what you pay for, right? So you have to look at that in terms of what you're ingesting in your body. Um, and then I want to talk about the K2, but I'll make sure you add. I don't want
Yeah, no,
to.
but that's the thing. Oftentimes people get a bit distracted by price and don't consider the quality. And when you're putting
Yeah,
something in your body that can actually help you to eliminate deficiencies or support improving your body's ability to process what it needs better. You
hmm,
need to think more on quality, because remember all of the things we've discussed before. The symptoms that are associated with chronic illness can sometimes be related to deficiencies and not
yeah,
necessarily a chronic illness. And oftentimes people
correct.
have an unknown autoimmune condition because they're showing all of these autoimmune and chronic illness symptoms, but there's no definitive answer of or positive or negative for those tests. Well, that's when they should also be willing to first dig deeper into potential deficiencies. So that's why I love these type of questions, or these
Yeah,
type of interviews, because it's actually opening people's minds up to, I
yes.
may not have a chronic illness. I may have a
I have
chronic
a
deficiency.
deficiency.
Um,
Yes,
that
yes,
is,
Katina. Yes,
so that's what you have to,
seriously.
yes.
I think we just, what you said, we have to be, look, there's a lot. The thing is, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that have their own agenda. So someone
Mhm.
else's agenda, they're looking at maybe you or me or whatever on their, from their perspective, from their agenda. We have to, as women, we have to have our agenda. We have to know that we got to advocate for who we are and be empowered with the information, so we can say to them, because sometimes we don't know, so we're asking the expert, okay, help me, tell me. But now you want to have that empowerment to say, okay, let's work together. These are the things I want to make sure are right with me. And then let's see where we are from there. It's like having that, the information, so that you're guiding the process, because your body's so intelligent, and you don't always know what's going on, and nor does someone else. And you being able to say, hey, check this, check this, check this, and then you check that, and you're like, okay, I now I feel better. I didn't know that. And so you are empowering other people, to other women, to take it into their own hands and be that advocate, and you're saving a lot of pain and suffering that other people have.
I hope to do
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
why it's so important for us as women to share our knowledge.
It
Oftentimes, women
is.
suffer in silence. Uh,
Yeah, we do. We
mhm.
do.
We suffer in silence
We
and we
do.
don't really share our experiences. And if we only shared more, how many
Yeah.
people could we shorten the time frame of their suffering?
We suffer in silence because, my opinion, not fact, but and you tell me what you believe, is that we as women, we are supposed to be strong.
Mhm.
We're supposed to be all of these things. We can do all these. I am woman, hear me roar. All of that. And so we don't necessarily want to show what we may perceive as a weakness because we think we see everybody else thriving and we don't. So everybody's hiding, right? Everybody's like masking something, and we're like, well, if she's doing this, and I don't want to look like I can't handle it, but we're all at some level becoming, all of us, what no matter
Mhm.
what it looks like. Because I always think people look at a person in a snapshot in time and they say, oh, Katina's always thriving. She's always this. And you're like, I ain't always this. I'm this
Mm,
right now because I'm on. I'm supposed to be this. And so when we look at a person, we look at them in that in their moment and then think, oh well, their life is better than mine, or they do this better than mine. So we're like, I just want to pretend. These people say fake it until you can make it.
mhm.
And
That's
we
the worst
are
thing to do.
struggling and not saying anything.
Mhm.
Which brings us to, we were taught, you and I were talking about this before, and this is a sidebar from the vitamin D conversation, but that as you said, we're suffering in silence. We have a lot going on. And I stepped away from my business for 6 years because I was running and trying to keep up with everybody else. And I realized that keeping up with everybody else, I really wasn't keeping up with the truth of who I am. Meaning that the most important thing to me is my health. Because you if you don't have your health, you can't do all the stuff. And there's a point where you break down, or you can break down when you're doing too much. Because that crown that we wear, because we have to be a business owner of this, of that, of this, of that, that's a lot. And so I had to, as hard as it was, I had to sit down. While I saw everybody else running and doing, I had to step back. And it was very, very difficult for me because I was at the height of my business success, but I knew internally I couldn't physically manage everything that was I was doing. And my daughter was 10 or 11 at the time, and I was focused more on one thing and not the other. So I stepped away. I didn't close my business down. We still have customers from that time. But what I'm saying is that I made that decision to pull back because our adrenal glands, this system inside of us where adrenaline, right? So when we're in fight or flight mode, we get this adrenaline. Like if a tiger is chasing you, you're going to run and to be scared and all of that. When we're doing too much all the time, that adrenaline is always going and it doesn't calm down and it just wears us out. And adrenal fatigue, which is not my area of expertise, but it's an issue because
Mm.
we don't know it, right? You don't feel it at first, but your body is absorbing all of this going, and it'll shut you down. And I didn't want that. And so in order not to have that, I had to put a halt on some of the things that were was too much, but it was hurtful for my ego because I had to not feel like I was less than. I had to feel I didn't want to feel like, oh, I can't handle it. Oh, I'm not, the bad bee. But I stepped away because I said, I don't want to run myself to the ground trying to succeed. I don't want to deplete my energy trying to succeed. I don't want to pretend that I have it all together when I don't. So I stepped away so that I could truly have it all together, which was being able to sleep and breathe and, make sure that my body was in alignment. And I say that to everyone that is listening. There is nothing greater than our health. Nothing. Because
Mhm.
once that's gone, or then what, business doesn't matter. Nothing. I mean, it's like that's your number one asset. That is your number one asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Health is wealth, they say. The thing is
Yeah.
this, it's for me, it sounds like it's a measurement between what is most important, the quality of life or the
Yeah.
quality of success. And
Yeah.
truthfully, without your health, without having
Yeah.
a quality of health and life that is actually producing a lifestyle in which you can sustain success, it's
Yeah.
not, success is not anything if you don't have your health.
No.
And then also, if you don't have those memories with your child, if you lose relationships and don't
Hmm.
build connections with others that are important to our health as well, it can also, it's not, no amount of success can really compensate for those human losses that we will
Yeah.
lose if we put success or money over everything.
Yeah. I think people equate success to money. And I would say success for me, not is my opinion. I would say that is peace of mind, good
Exactly.
sleep, good sleep, honey. That's some success. And being able to have choices and options and good food and
Hmm.
good people around you, right? That you know are supporting you. And all of the things that I would say society is telling us to do and telling us to have, they don't matter as much as we think they do. Because I'm going to tell you, when I was building my company, my I made it gift to myself was going to be a Louis Vuitton, right? That was my, like, okay, I've got this business, it's this successful, and then I'm gonna buy this Louis Vuitton. And then I thought, hmm, Louis don't call me. He ain't never thanked me. I'm making Louis real, we're all making, or whoever's buying Louis Vuitton or the designer things, uh, making them more money. And I feel like, I'm working for these things, these trappings, these nice cars. And I'm like, well, why? It doesn't make me better. It doesn't do anything for me. And I don't have those things anymore, or I don't have those things, and I'm still just as cool. So,
Exactly.
and then I don't have to do as much to keep up. So I downsized, but I right sized. I downsized, but I'm happier, I'm more peaceful, and like I'm true to my joy, opposed to running, 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 going, 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 thinking I had to catch up, keep up to what everybody else was doing. So that's my
Exactly.
number one health tip.
I appreciate, and I concur, or I agree. I
Yeah,
second that emotion.
yeah, yeah.
Because I know for me, even as a person who is has been married going on 17 years next year,
Wow.
we'll be married. We, in our first
Beautiful.
year of marriage, outlined our budget. We outlined what
Hmm.
was important for us. We outlined what was, if I chose to work, and if I chose to work part time or full time, what would our life look like? But
Yeah,
what were the most important things to us? We enjoyed traveling. And
yeah.
so we didn't have to invest so much in cars and in houses
Correct.
to that degree.
Yeah.
We could have afforded a very expensive home, but we chose to get a home that was $200,000 or less, so that
Yeah.
we could have a mortgage that would allow us to pay for our vacations
Yeah.
and pay for, experiences and things. I've been driving my Nissan Rogue, my 2015
Yeah.
that I love from the bottom of
Yeah.
my heart, and it's been paid for many years.
Yeah.
I don't want to upgrade. I don't need a car
Yeah.
payment, but I love
Mhm.
my car and it's still
Yeah.
functioning. And thankfully, I have
Correct.
a husband who's basically a good mechanic in itself. I know we're
Good.
derailing, but the point of the matter is, I love that you chose your daughter, you chose
Yeah.
peace of mind and health
You
first.
did.
I want everyone, when they look at me, yes, there
Mhm.
are so many other things that each of us can potentially afford materially, but material
Yeah.
things do not equal health. It does not truly equal success. Because
It
when I say
doesn't.
quality of success, it's meaning what the world usually tells us success is. But quality of
Yeah,
success for me is, first of all, my relationship with God, my
yeah,
relationship with my husband, my family, and then those things that that
mhm,
I am being able to walk in my purpose and do the things that I'm passionate about is more important to
mhm.
me than any dollar amount that I could get. That's why when I
Yeah,
work with people, I'm like, don't work with me as a coach thinking that I'm going to get you 10K months or I'm going to get this. I want to work with people who want to walk in their purpose and
yeah.
do what they're passionate about. I don't want to work with someone who is money driven because it's not sustainable.
I want people to know that you can be happy,
Hmm.
peaceful, secure. You can have a business and it can run and it can function and it doesn't have to stress you out. That that is the truth. That's not what the world tells you because the world tells you you got to work real hard. And I'm not saying you don't have to put in work. I mean, there is you got to pray and move your feet, right? You have to put in the work and do
Oh,
things,
yes.
but but all things are possible. And so I would say this because people say you can have it all, and I think you can. I don't know if you can have it
You
all at
can.
once. I don't know that you can have it all at once, all the like everything all at once, except you can have peace of mind, which my goal is always peace of mind, and that helps me to determine what I can and will and won't do. And I really use that as my guide. And I just encourage others because I know that there's people that are hearing this that are saying, okay, like, yeah, I get it. But yeah, the success is just being able to breathe and sleep and relax and enjoy and all this other stuff, is just
Hmm.
icing on the cake.
I agree. I often tell people that the that if you do what you're passionate about,
Yeah,
and if you perform in your zone of genius where you're naturally
yeah,
talented, always the money will follow
yeah.
because just like the Bible tells us that if we seek God's kingdom first and all these other things will be added, He's promising
Hmm.
us that we'll have our needs.
Yeah.
If we do that and if we do what we were really purposed to do, we can
Hmm.
see that what we need will always be there.
It
So
will. It
now there's one
will.
thing we have to talk about,
Okay.
and because I know time is coming down, but
Got it.
the K2, we got all, girl,
Oh,
we
the
got all
K2.
the
I know.
K2. We got to
Because
talk about the
I
K2.
know, because I just want to say this about what you said about walking in our purpose and the money will come. But there's also this thing where there's a thing about patience. because
Yes.
because they might say, well, Katina, I'm walking in my purpose. I've been walking my purpose for 5 minutes and I don't, or 10 minutes or 10 days or,
Mm-mm,
but
60 years
sometimes
sometimes.
you be walking your purpose for 10 years, 15 years, because you have to learn some stuff along the way. Like
Hmm.
you can't just, there's some lessons, painful ones, ugly ones, all these lessons that you have in order to be who you have to be. So yes, it's coming, but there has to be patience and faith. All right. So the K2. So
Yes.
K2 so K2 is really useful for women. What the K2 does is it helps take the calcium. So you like calcium. I actually don't recommend calcium supplements, but we have calcium in our bodies, and the K2 helps to take that calcium and put it in our bones where it belongs and not in our heart and places that it doesn't belong. So when you're taking the D3, that K2 helps to navigate it and put the D where it's supposed to be in relation to our bones. However, if you are on a blood thinner, then you don't want to take the D3K2. So if you are not on a blood thinner, then and the older we get, because although vitamin D is critical to human health and our cell growth and all those other things, as we get older, we still got to care for our bones, right? So the older we get, if we're into menopause or any of that, then we want to have that K2 with the D3 unless, I'm repeating this, unless you are on a blood thinner. But here's the deal. If you are not, you're confused, you don't know, then just go with D3 by itself. But if you do know, because a lot of our clients and customers, they know, they go right for the D3, K2, they understand it, they know it, it's all good. And then some people are like, I don't know, then just go with the D3 by itself. So we'll say that.
All
That's
righty
what the
then. You have
K2
just
does.
educated us
Yeah,
exceptionally well on that. I did not want to go without us talking about that because it is something that you and
yeah,
I've had, personal conversations in reference to
yeah,
because we're all most times we're told to take vitamin D with calcium, but there is another alternative. And
yeah,
then we'll have to have a part two about that will include more about the calcium and the K2
yeah.
because we
There's
just
always it's a lot to talk about.
yeah, there's
There's
a
a
lot
lot.
to talk about.
Life is a lot, right?
Yeah,
There's
we
health.
connect on so many things.
Yeah,
But what
there's a
I want you to
lot.
do is, as we come to a close, could you please let the audience know where they can find you?
Where they can find me. So our website is necessaryvitamind.com. So necessaryvitamind.com. And on Instagram, we are at Nessie Nutri. So N is in Nancy, E, S is in Sam, S is in Sam, Y, Nutri. So at Nessie Nutri, which is short for necessary nutrition. But you can also, if you go to our website, necessaryvitamind.com, you can find us. And there is because I'm a nutritionist, I don't do nutritional counseling anymore, but I love to educate and talk about nutrition freely. There's a menu that you can download there. And actually, for the Inflamed Sisters community, there's a special download for an anti-inflammatory menu. So maybe Katina will, I don't know, maybe she'll put in the show notes somewhere, but that's a gift for you all just to have a nutrition plan and a guide that is anti-inflammatory in nature. So hopefully she'll put in the show notes. I don't have any control over that, but if you can, that's for you. It's a gift. You download it, and I'd love to keep in touch. Follow us on IG. Go to our website, and we would love and honored to be your supplier of vitamin D3. There's one more thing we didn't talk about because this is the question that comes up because people, this is something really quick. There's different strengths of vitamin D. There's
Mm.
5,000, there's 1,000, there's 2,000. We only offer 5,000 because we know that that's most effective, it's most powerful, and it helps to keep your levels adequate. Another thing we didn't talk about, and this is important, if you go to the doctor and they test your levels and you're at like a 30, they'll say, oh, you're fine. If you're at a 30, you're not insufficient, you're not deficient, but your body is not maximally supported. So your numbers, you want them to be between 60 and 80. Your level 60 and 80, that is when your body is maximally supported. So if you see your numbers at a 30, you keep on going until you get them up at least till 60. And I recommend taking 5,000 IUs a day, unless you're mega dosing. If you're mega dosing, then you're going to do 50,000 in a week. But I'm always available to answer questions. On our website, you can always send us an inquiry and we would love to answer that. Lastly, we're not just your vitamin D supplier. That is our primary offering, but we offer classes that are designed primarily to just help you live your best life with food and nutrition. And there's a class on there now with regards to hormones, because all of us as women, we have them, and at some point we don't have them adequately. So we just want to be a resource. So thank you so much, Katina, uh, for having me here, and just want to send blessings to those that are listening. And I always just say, each one teach one. When you have something, Katina, to share, or any of us, I think we get it so that we can share it. God doesn't give us like to whom much is given, much is required. So all of you all listening, there's a gift that you have that you've been given to share it. You've not been given it in vain. So whatever you are, what you have, I think you should share. So I appreciate you, Katina, for sharing and then giving me the opportunity to share.
Oh, you are welcome, and you will
Yeah.
be back. I would
Okay.
love to have you, and I do want to also again thank you for being one of our sponsors for the
You're
Inflamed
welcome.
Sisters Thriving Summit and Gala that we recently had. It was a
Yeah.
successful event, and every contribution, your contribution, actually helped us to provide just this a safe
Yeah.
space where women could be inspired, educated, and motivated to thrive in all aspects of their life. So we'll have to have another conversation in the near
Yeah.
future.
And I guess
And
for those that didn't go, I heard it was phenomenal. And I'm putting a plug for your gala, right? That if you it's next year or whatever,
yes,
depending on when y'all are listening to this, but uh go because it was phenomenal. It was tears were shed. I understand that, and people were touched emotionally, and it's a good space. So, and your retreat. I mean, I heard all about it, right? I heard all about
girl,
all the
well,
things.
thank you. Yes, the retreat was very nice. Our first
Yeah.
retreat, our first summit and gala. So I just want to continue to provide that. We don't normally see where as Black women, as women of
Mhm.
color, as people of color, that
Yeah.
things are supported when we do our best to do good. But for
Mhm.
this to receive that amount of support, it was humbling to
Yeah.
me, and it was a testament to the fact that it is possible for us, and that if one of us can do it, to each, like you say, each one teach
Like
one.
this
We need to
one.
be
Yeah.
willing to allow our brothers and sisters to stand on our shoulders and pull the other over.
And when it
So
comes to the space of chronically ill or the autoimmune disease spectrum or conditions, it's such a space that is evolving, but that it's more and more folks are challenged by it, and so we need you, right, to help people do better, faster, and quicker, and lead them to solutions and connections because so they can thrive, right? So Flame Sisters can thrive.
well,
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect way to end this, because
Yes.
thank you so much for being a guest, and thank you for what you are doing for the community. And I wish you many blessings
Thank
and
you.
real success,
I thank you.
the real
Peace.
one,
Yes.
peace
The
of
realm.
mind.
Yes. Yes.
And I have to end as I always do. My sisters, we may be inflamed, but we're still here. And as long as we are here, we might as well thrive together always, because
Yeah.
inflamed sisters thrive together always. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Peace and blessings.